Hello, and welcome to the latest installation in the Cybersecurity Advisors Network's series of video chats, interviews, panels, and related videos around topics relevant to the cybersecurity, risk management, and similar industries. My name is John Solomon. I'm with Cyan, and I'm here today with Udi Cohen, who's the CEO and co-founder of Vendict, an Israeli startup that is automating filling out various types of forms with a focus on information security. Before we start, a full disclosure, I am a member of a loose investment group called the Cyber Club London, or CCL, and I'm a very, very small investor in Vendict, so I do have a business interest in their success. On the other hand, I'm also using that group as an avenue to find interesting topics that are relevant to Cyan and its community. So just to make sure that we're very transparent there. Cyan is a not-for-profit organization, and I did feel that this topic, especially given the growth of GRC requirements, supply chain risk management, cyber risk insurance as a topic, is very, very timely and relevant today. I'd like to welcome Udi. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to talk very quickly about Vendict, what you do, where you come from, why you're doing it?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. We are a team that focused on AI, specifically linguistic AI, the kind of technology you see in ChatGPT. But our focus is security compliance, GRC. This is where we want to innovate. This is in a nutshell.
Excellent. So I think you guys focused on questionnaires. So I think over the past couple of years, we saw a huge series of supply chain attacks, vulnerabilities, related threats, 2020 to 2022, particularly, Excellion, Microsoft Exchange, you name it, basically. And I think this led to an enormous growth in awareness of the need for supply chain risk management. This has been picked up by regulators around the world. In the EU, I'm in Spain, so I have a close interest in this. We're seeing this take the form of the NIS2 and DORA directives and acts that are coming out, I think it's this year or next year. And, a lot of organizations, even beyond the regulatory requirements put on critical infrastructure industries, are taking a much closer look at basically wanting to have a better view of what their suppliers are up to. So have you guys, what do you see as the major challenges for an organization that's sorry, some people calling me here. What do you see as the major challenges for an organization involved in this kind of risk management work when they're faced with this kind of flood of paper?
Yeah. So as you mentioned today, we mainly help the tech provider to pass those security questionnaire, but we also speak a lot with the other side, with the companies that want to protect the company and make sure that the vendor is secured. So for those companies, I think that the main problem is that there is just too much work. Okay, you have hundreds of vendors. Many of them are critical for your business continuity, and many of them have private information or information of your customers, and you need to verify every one of them as much as you verify yourself, but it's just too much work, right? It's a lot, it can be thousands of documents that you need to read, SOC 2 reports, penetration tests, understanding the processes, because as you know, security is not about whether you, how many data breaches you had, it's how you train the employees. It's on your processes and how it's mapped to control. There is a lot to check when you really want to evaluate a vendor. And most of the organizations just can't do it today.
Do you see a convergence between the requirements that companies are seeing from cybersecurity risk providers and regulators around the world? And are there areas from either side that you see as developing more strictly? Are commercial insurance providers paying more attention to one thing and the regulators to another?
I think that for both of them, the main problem is that it's just cannot happen today with the current technology. It doesn't make sense. Organization cannot have enough resources to really evaluate every vendor. And I think it's the same pain for both insurance company and the regulator. And this is why you have so many ransomware attackers getting their money. Okay, because companies cannot really defend themselves, and the only way the insurance company can survive is just paying those attackers. And the same goes for the regulation. They understand the risk of the vendors, but they know that there is no feasible solution today. I think so. Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
So yeah, the ransomware. The first thing that came to mind was the recent UK, the Royal Mail conversation that was leaked between them internally and a malware actor. So yeah, definitely good point there. Do you see a trend where let's say, phrasing this very carefully, over the past few years we've seen an increased connection, closeness between cybersecurity and its ability to quantify risk and controls implementation effectiveness and the business side of things. We all remember the 2007 financial crisis. After that, we get stricter financial controls. Cybersecurity is a little bit behind. But do you see management generally being more demanding of ensuring that all the boxes are ticked and that the cybersecurity guys are doing their homework in evaluating, for example, their vendors?
Yes, definitely. I can see more companies spending more budget on that, even though in spite of the economic status, I can see that many organizations are less have less appetite for risk, and they invest more in that. But I think that the main thing that is today is missing is the technology, the ability to actually do it more efficiently, and we believe that AI is the solution. The kind of technology we see in ChatGPT. Of course, ChatGPT is not perfect, but I think that in this kind of area where it's a lot of documents you need to read and analyze, I think this is the best way to solve this problem. Yeah. So anyway, I think that I think that with generative AI and linguistic AI specifically for this domain, this will be the first time that you will be able to actually verify your vendor. And once it is possible, you will also see that the regulators and the insurance company will demand more, because they will know that now it's possible.
So I had to look it up. So just for the benefit of those like me that are not subject matter experts, can you just very quickly define generative AI?
Yeah, definitely. So this is what you see with ChatGPT, where it's not just analytics, but it's something that gets created, or the ability to say, I want a picture of this and that, and get the AI generate this picture for you, this image for you. This is the generative AI. And I think that the reason that it is so exciting, this kind of technology, and that people start to feel strange that this is even possible, is that unlike other kind of AIs that can help with analytics or recommendation, this is like creating something from scratch, which people were used to think that this is like a human capability and that computer will not be able to do that. And this time, and now we can see the AI starting together to create something from zero to non-zero, to write a post, to create a picture. So this is the generative AI, and this is exciting. And we believe that this is also one of the cures for the security industry and for the GRC industry.
So for me, the interesting topic goes beyond just, for example, the supplier evaluation forms that you guys do, but also, I think we're seeing I come from a risk management background, and a lot of my time was spent doing actual risk analysis and writing subjective, not only recommendations, but also outcome descriptions for different audiences. So precisely that area, I think, is a fascinating source of potential for companies that want to automate and use their resources more effectively. So I'm gonna throw you a very provocative one, and that is, I am management. I have an interest in keeping costs down. I mean, I guess I know the answer to the question, but where do you see the potential of danger of management saying, well, we have this tool now. The tool is great. It's very intelligent. We don't need to do the other stuff. My instinct, were I a CISO, I would say, okay, well, this is a crutch. It's a hammer, right? You can't use the hammer without the carpenter. You have to have the person who can review it, sanity check it. AI will, I don't think in our lifetimes, be totally perfect. So somebody is always going to have to babysit a bit. Is there a possibility that some managers or some CISOs or CROs or CEOs will just get lazy and say, well, here's this thing, that a panacea that solves everything, and how do we deal with that?
Yeah, so I completely agree with you that in our lifetime, the AI will still need to be supervised. And I think that in areas like risk management and compliance, where today we only do 5% of what needs to be done, okay, because we know for a fact that we are not evaluating the risks deeply enough. And that in terms of compliance, we know that, for example, when we enable a new vendor, in many cases, this is not because we are sure that we verified the vendor well enough. It's just because we know that there is a business justification that we cannot avoid. Okay, in many cases, the CISO need to either approve the vendor or leave the company, right? Because we need a vendor. It's your problem that you don't have the resources to verify them well enough. So I think the AI will help us be more, will help us do more. Okay, but we will still be short of resources even after this revolution. But the work will be different. If you in 3 or 4 years, if you are the risk manager of a company, instead of doing things from scratch, you will have the AI that will analyze and create a report, and your role will be to review it. It's like a senior risk manager and a junior risk analyst. So the AI will do the junior parts, and everyone will be more senior.
Having an assistant, basically. So this is interesting, because my thought model in this was using AI for tasks like this was basically letting the subject matter experts focus on the long tail, right? What's going to be really interesting to me is, and I don't think we have a solution for this, I'm really big on mentoring and talent development. And a large part of that is spending time in the trenches doing this kind of junior stuff. So I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm just kind of, I'm thinking out loud here, that a really interesting development, don't know if it's going to be a problem, is going to be, well, if we automate all the junior tasks, if we automate all the grunt work, will new entrants who eventually need to become these senior people, these experienced people, have the opportunity to still get their hands dirty? I think it's going to be an interesting challenge for management to understand that this could be an issue, and to ensure that even though for the actual production work they have the tools to automate it, they still need to give their juniors access to the dirt, you know, that junior analyst content that you mentioned. So I think it's going to require across the security industry a fundamental rethink about how we deal with a whole lot of aspects of people, you know, training people, informing people, tracking what they're doing, that kind of thing. So this is, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It simply is that CISOs have to get used to.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I think I completely agree. I think that, but I think that at least today, the mistakes that the AI is doing are, are sometimes silly mistakes. Okay, so there will still be a room for a junior reviewing the output of the AI before the senior kicks in. So the junior will do the first iterations, get it to some level, and then the more senior one will do the next iteration, and the junior will be able to review the mistakes that they missed, and the senior manager did identify. Okay, so I can still see how the training will work.
That's a good point, and I think I really think it is just important to keep in mind exactly what you just said. Is that again, it's using my terminology, it's a hammer. It's a really good hammer, but it's a hammer. One thing you mentioned I wanted to touch on, and that's the resource and budget. This telling the CISO, well, it's your problem how you do it. It's really interesting to me to see how regulation has grown around taking the burden away from the CISO and putting it more on the business. So at the same time that the CISO has increasingly become a business function, the link of information security, risk management, and control implementation effectiveness tracking to the business risk management frameworks, right? And basically making the CEO and the board responsible or accountable, at least, to make sure that their risk management is complete, is in place, especially if the critical industry, has been a huge development. So my question to you is on the topic of AI. Do you think in the next 10 years we're going to see regulators requiring AI automated tools as part of this process? Because there are certain things that AI is really good at, you know, and at some point it's going to be so good that it is the quality standard for certain things. So do you think maybe the regulator is going to say, well, this is the only way that you're going to get this level of precision is AI?
I don't think that the regulations will focus on the how, but I think they will demand results that you will not be able to achieve without AI, that it will not make sense to achieve. For example, they will want to see a report of you verifying every vendor every quarter. Okay, because things changing all the time, right? And to really generate this kind of report, analyze their SOC 2, analyze their penetration test, analyze their documentation, you will not be able to do it without AI, not effectively. So in practice, it will be like demanding AI, but they will not say, I demand AI. They just say, I want this and that.
Okay. I'm thinking, the reason I was thinking in that direction was I have some background doing information security in the medical field. And there are certain times when, yeah, I guess the regulators don't require specific devices, but there are specific, as you mentioned, outcomes and even methodologies that you cannot that you cannot deliver without relying on certain technical standards or even products, I guess. So one thing that's come up in my mind is there's talking about AI generally in the information security space. You guys are focused right now on filling out forms, right? Which is horrible, boring grunt work. I hate it. I never want to see a supplier management form again as long as I live. Now, talking about the generative AI part of this, there's a huge amount of work, I think, where there's potential for these kinds of crutches. Good example being cyber threat intelligence analysis. Yeah. On the one hand, having tools that help you do, for example, malware code analysis, not having to go through, a hex editor, but also creating, the intelligence output, the analyzed output for human consumption. What are some examples of areas where I think the information security space could benefit from machine support, machine learning, and machine generated content in creating these kinds of outputs for human consumption?
I think that any text-based document that you create in this area, whether it's a risk analysis report or compliance about like a report on how you do your training, how you do your business continuity, any kind of report that you create you can do it much better with AI NLP. Okay, because we are starting to see this kind of technology to generate the text out of limited information, and with AI that is specifically developed for this area, you can make the results much more reliable. Okay, so I believe that in 5 years, all of those documented, any report, any textual report will maybe in 10 years, maybe in 5 years, will be generated.
That's a brave prediction. Okay, go on, sorry.
Yeah, I cannot see why not, because even though, again, it will not be the final report. You will still need a human to go through that. This will not change in the coming 5 to 10 years. But there is a big difference between writing it from scratch and get a result and change 10%. This is also what we do today. When we fill out, so today we help the vendors to respond to security questionnaires. Instead of looking for the information and write response by response, and in many cases just respond yes, no, because you don't have the time and energy to look for the complete response, you have the AI do it for you. And then you just need to review and fix the few mistakes that the AI is doing, okay? So you save, it's not only the time that you are saving, it's also, for example, one of our clients, it took them 2 months or on average to pass those security assessments. And with Vendict, only 2 days. Because anyway you look at it, it is always easier to read and fix than to write from scratch. And I think this is where the industry will go. So whenever you need to write something, it will be AI writing it for you, and you are fixing.
I think also touching back on a point we discussed earlier. I think it's really important to voice a caution to the CISO and to the non-technical side of the management, CEO, CFO, CRO, etc. That yes, there are aspects where you are simplifying the resources or making existing resources more efficient, but also the growth in complexity and requirements on your organization is just going to get out of hand. It's going to increase over time. So it's not just that we are, encouraging you to fire all your information security guys. Please don't do that, because it won't be good for you. But actually, you're avoiding having to hire too many additional people for the growth in regulatory requirements, cyber risk insurance requirements in the future. So just if you're a CISO and you're watching this, or you're a CIO or CFO, this is not a good reason for you to start cutting your infosec budget. Just maybe help it not get out of hand.
Yeah, I think I spoke with like maybe 1,000 CISOs since I've started Vendict, and I think most of them understand it very well. They know that today, at least in the areas of tracking regulation and verifying vendors, they understand very well that what they are doing today is not enough. And I think that even the CEOs and the boards understand that. And today they just need to live with that. They need to live with that. The regulators, the insurance, everyone needs to live with that, because they know it's just not possible today to really do it good enough, well enough. So I don't think there is this kind of risk of people thinking, okay, now we have better technology, we can do with less humans. I think it's on the contrary. Only now you will have the chance to start doing it on the right level.
That's good. That's because my instinctive response is I'm not so worried about the CISOs. It's more the CFO I'm worried about, because they're looking at budget. But that's an encouraging thing to hear. I'm going to close up with a really annoying question for you. I'm going to hate this.
Okay.
I'm really good at that. In your prediction, and nobody, please don't quote him on this, but when do you think we'll be at the point where AI will be capable of reliably reporting information security maturity status to the board?
I don't know. I'm not sure we will get to this point. I think from what I'm seeing today is that even when the AI is getting more and more sophisticated, even with problems that you think that they are kind of solved, the mistakes that the AI is doing when it does the mistakes is very different from the mistake that the human is doing. Even if you will build a model that can identify whether it's a cat or a dog in 99%, the 1% of mistakes will be ridiculous. Okay, because for example, when you look deeper into the AI, you will see that when the AI see that there is a couch, so that there is a sofa, then it will assume it's a cat, because in most cases the cat will be indoor. Okay, or you will see some kind of statistical things that can make sense statistically, but a human would never have this kind of mistakes. And if you play with ChatGPT enough time, you will see some ridiculous mistakes that you will say, what? And I think this will still happen, that even when the AI will have higher and higher accuracy, the mistakes will still be like, wow, how can it happen? I think yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
So you will still want a human to just make sure that it's correct.
That's a really good and differentiated answer. And I mean, looking at my cat, I don't actually see much of a difference between him and the sofa cushions. Hi, Sammy. Lazy. And I think one of the cautionary notes here is that humans have a natural tendency to anthropomorphize anything, to make friends with a Roomba, and to the extension of that is to ascribe human qualities to something that is not human. So I think it really is important that we grow an understanding of a new methodology, new norms, new means of interacting with something that we as humans are not familiar with yet, that future generations will be much more comfortable with, having grown up with it. So with that, I'd like to wrap up. Hey, Udi, thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I will link to Vendict below, as well as some of the content and concepts mentioned in this conversation. I'd like to encourage everyone to join us at cybersecurityadvisors.network, a link to us as well. Please stay tuned for future videos on various interesting topics around the cybersecurity industry, and feel free to suggest your own. And with that, I look forward to seeing everybody on the next one of these. Udi, thank you very much. A lot of success and have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.